All right, let's go ahead and jump right into it on how, and this is pretty common that I see that comes up of a subject matter is how to find off-market multifamily deals. And what I'll be going into in today's video is sharing three different ways that you can use and strategies and techniques that not many other people know about, and I'll be providing a actual deal and case study for you as well. So you'll definitely want to go ahead and stay until the very end to hear this story, because I'll tell it towards the middle. So do not skip ahead or go ahead and just click off and click on to another video. So let's jump right into it. But first, of course, like the content, it would really mean the world. So the first that I want to go into is with this, you have to build your pipeline. That is first and foremost, and the various ways that you can use. And this is when formally started, and this is a free way, is using apartments.com, Google, and also CoStar. And the thing is with CoStar, majority of the time you do have to pay, but if you have a relationship with a broker, they can actually pull the leads for you. So that's one additional thing that you can be able to leverage. And when you're using these is you got to be sure to have filtering in place that is likely for someone to sell their property, because you just don't want to, let's say, hop on apartments.com and now you're starting to build your pipeline of leads and lists, and you're reaching out to people who just bought their property. Especially when it's if they have a loan on it, there's likely going to be a prepayment penalty that they have to pay for the lender for selling early. So even if they wanted to sell, they couldn't sell. So you have to look for someone whose loan may be due in the next 1 to 2 years, or that they may be behind on their taxes, or they may have inherited the property. So you can use different filtering as a way to end up narrowing that where you're even more targeted. And this is one filtering that you can use here. Let me go ahead and pull this up. What does that look like when I do that? So, all right, is here is just leveraging and looking for properties that have bad reviews. And this is just using this platform, which everyone is pretty familiar with. This is Google. You're looking for the apartments that have bad ratings, and that's a good indication that there is mismanagement. And we'll just go ahead and scroll through a couple of these, and here is, all right, just scrolling, just looking at Aberton Apartments. That's got a rating of 2.1. That's not really good. Apartment that's being managed well is, I would say, 3.5 plus. 2 is definitely not being managed well, and there's quite a bit of complaints that's going in there. They're probably not fixing things when they should be fixing things. So you would just click on this, and then the next steps is you would just have to figure out who is the owner of this. And in order to do that is everything is public record in order for you to do that. That's a whole entirely separate video that I've actually done before, how to determine who the owner is of a property. So that's one way that you can use is doing looking for apartments that have bad reviews, and then also is leveraging apartments.com here. And initially, because went the free route, because didn't have the a lot of means to afford most of the databases that were out there that were a little bit more costly. So ended up taking more time and using the free route. So that's always the thing, is that either you have the cash to invest in a database, which saves you time, or if you don't have the cash, then you have to actually invest the time. So was using this particular platform and then just narrowing it down to find apartments, and also within this is looking for the ones that had the bad reviews. So there's that. And I always want to filter, and that's a way for you to just find someone who more is likely to sell. Because the common mistake I do see people make is they have no filtering in place and they're targeting just anyone. And that you'll just be spinning your wheels and following up and keep trying to get in touch with someone who it's slim to none with them selling their property, and even if they do, they would want to sell it at a premium. All right, so there's that. And then now that you've used this filtering technique that I've mentioned to you, and you found a apartment that makes sense, this is when you do the outreach. And this is the deal. And I just want to share this story with you. So this is the Whitfield Apartments, acquired it. This was in 2020, right in the midst of COVID. And how this ended up coming together is, one, did the process that I just showed you, is look for apartments, and this was at the time on the smaller range, because the smaller the unit count you go, the more of a likely chance you're running into someone who is more mom and pop. The larger the unit count, let's say when you're getting closer to 100, 150 to 200, they're more sophisticated, and the likelihood of them selling it direct to you versus on market is slim in itself. So that's one thing. So ended up targeting this one. It actually fell through the cracks because normally 9-unit would actually be too small, but this was just one of those deals that just couldn't refuse to pass on. So how it all started and ended up coming together is ended up building the pipeline with leads, and then had someone on the team that was making all of these calls. And they were doing all the outreach, and then what they were listening for is certain triggers that indicated someone was motivated to sell their property, raising their hand, yes, I'm motivated, and then the appointment would be set for me. Because as you look to scale and grow, it's quite time consuming doing all these calls and outreach this way. So ended up hiring a virtual assistant. And if you want more help with how that system is that I put together, there's a link below for a strategy session. And so ended up outsourcing it to them. They made all these calls, and on that initial call turns out he was an attorney. He moved from Indianapolis to Florida because he was actually looking to retire, and then had his son managing the property, which his son was full-time in law enforcement and didn't have the time. So a lot of the pain points actually kept going up to the dad. And at that point, it was really, the timing was right. He said, yes, I would be open to selling the property. And that, what I want to mention is, with this particular strategy, is there's multiple ways to actually do the outreach. You've got text, you've got direct mail, you've got email. What I found most effective is actually a call, because it's more proactive than reactive. It's when you send direct mail, you're sending it out, and now you're waiting for people to actually reach back out to you, versus when you call them, they pick up the phone and you can really get a sense of where they're at. Go ahead and comment below, which do you prefer: text, email, call, etc. So from that is, it's very transparent, and this is what we actually say on that call. And I will go ahead and put a link below to the script. You always want to have a script and something that you're following. Because when I first started, I had no script, and it felt as each and every call was entirely different, which in a way they are. But if you have a framework that you're working in, that allows you the call to go that much smoother. Because once you get off the line or off courses, you know, okay, this is where I want to go back to, versus just bouncing all around, and then now they actually control the call. So this is how it is. It opens up like this. There's no, please, you guys, do not do the whole, hey, how was your day? No, open up with, and I actually just made this mistake earlier today when I called someone. But is that, hey, John, Sterling here. Did I catch you at a bad time? Always use their first name, never use their first and last name. And then there's two different reasons for the calls here, but is what my the person on my team would do, my VA, is they would say the reason for the call is because many of the time here is they'll say, well, it depends on what it is, or now's not a good time. You just go ahead and just jump right into the reason for the call. So very transparent, no NLP or this person says this, I'll do a backflip or something, work around here in order to, no, it's very just straight to the point. Yay or nay, are you interested in selling your property? And there's much more than that, of course, but so it's the reason for the call is my boss wanted me to personally reach out regarding, let's say here, Aberton Apartments. and wanted to submit a great offer to purchase. Would you be the right person to speak to about this? And then if they say, yeah, I would, and then that's when you move into your second part here, which is the fact finding and the qualify of the lead. And I will go ahead and put a link below to this so you'll be able to have access to this. And this is where you really determine whether or not they are a seller, or they're just someone that says, give me an offer I can't refuse, or I'd be willing to sell. Is if you give me something above market, then that's likely just not going to work. So that's what you'll be able to get through this section. And then just depending on the process that you have here, we have them set the appointment for myself. When is a good time for you to speak later? We want it as soon as possible. And then also the lot close. Would there be any reason outside of Hurricane Katrina to where you couldn't make the appointment? That's a way just to lock the close. And so it turned out they were motivated. The appointment was set for me. And then that's when we ended up taking it to the next steps with then retrieving the financials. And this was the mistake that I actually made on this, which is pretty funny, that the owner right from the jump said that, hey, I won't be able to provide the financials. I won't be able to provide anything. When he said that, I didn't think he literally meant that he was not going to be able to provide the financials. So that actually ended up coming to bite me at a later point when asking for the financials, because it would be difficult, because this was going to be a hard money loan in order to close on this and then flip it to another investor. And that's what the lender wanted to see, some type of financials. So fast forward, finally was able to get, I want to pull some pictures up for you, but that I can do that at a later point. So was finally able to went back and forth with them and ended up settling on the price of just under $300,000 for it. And I knew just from comps on this would be able to minimally resell it for $400,000. And that's exactly what ended up happening. But I'll tell you, and this is one reason why you always want to protect your downside, because there's just unknowns. Right as this property closed, it was March 2020. You guys know what happened in March 2020. That's when the cerveza sickness ended up coming around. And if you don't know what I mean by cerveza, you guys know what I mean by cerveza. I just don't want to say what it actually is because the YouTube algorithm. But is that ended up coming around and ended up taking longer to actually sell this property because the traffic just shut down. No one was wanting to look at the property. They didn't know what was going to happen from a macro standpoint. So it was very tough time. Ended up selling at a later point, and it was under contract for that $400,000, and then right before closing, they ended up renegotiating for $375 and ended up accepting because it was still a really good spread. And this was a partnership with another investor because I sold, so we ended up splitting the profits, and that goes to show that the value of teamwork. Because myself is I just enjoy finding the deals, and in this case is wholesaling is not my my niche that I work in. I'm more of a buy and hold investor, but this was just one of those deals that I couldn't pass on. So just ended up partnering with someone who already had the infrastructure in the buyers list and was the one doing all the showings and everything, doing the back and forth with the prospective buyers on the negotiations, and that was off my plate. And then just at the end, we ended up splitting the profit. So that's all I have, and I wanted to share this particular deal with you to really give you those insights from one. It starts with you got to build your pipeline. You have to have a filtering in place. Likelihood and within that filtering is to find someone who's likely to actually sell their property, because you don't want to target someone who just bought their property, because it's just not likely that they will sell it to you, because there's going to be a prepayment penalty in the event that they have a loan on it. And then after that is you've got to do the outreach. And I know some people are a little on the fence. I don't know if I want to call a stranger or anything, or whatever the case is, that, hey, you can do direct mail, you can do text, you can do email. But I haven't found those to be that effective. And if you don't want to make the calls, you can find someone out there at a very affordable price to do that. One good source is you can go direct to the Philippines. And this has been a game changer for myself. It's called onlinejobs.ph. One more time, that is onlinejobs.ph, not .com. That's actually direct to the Philippines. And if you pay a little bit more, you can get someone who actually speaks fluent in English. And then also, there has to be some motivations from the owner of the property. If they just want to sell the property, or open to selling, or if they want an offer that they can't refuse, that's likely not going to work out. But if there's someone who just ended up inheriting the property, or it's just been a nightmare for them to be able to manage, and they ended up getting in more than they actually thought, then that's usually when you're able to come in and get the property at a deep discount. So that's all I have for you all. I'm going to go ahead and read a few comments here. We got Scott Carson that just mentions email me. Okay, not sure regarding what, but thank you. And then from Julie Anderson, you are an inspiration. Thank you so much for the kind words. And shout out to Sean. If you happen to be watching this, we met earlier today, an investor I've been helping coaching along their journey. So you guys, if you got value from this, go ahead and like below, and then comment if you've made it this far with camera. I need to come up with something better, but I guess that's all I got. I appreciate you. Keep being awesome. Thank you. All right.